Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Hager number BB1277 4.5 by 4.5 slip-in style, both leaves tapped hinge, ball bearing hinge. So let's dissect the part number. Well, before we do that, this hinge is unusual. You will not be purchasing this hinge unless you know what it is used for. What it's used for is, and it's unusual to see these except in aluminum storefront openings, which is where I've seen them, that are several decades old, maybe something from the 1960s. I've certainly seen them in that sort of installation, where it's an older application. I don't believe there's really any instances where they're common at all in a new installation, but I have seen them done, just not very common. So if you have a door and frame where there are literally slots cut in the face of the jamb and the face of the door, and there are just simply holes drilled, you would take this hinge and slide it into both of those slots. Now, what you're going to notice when those leaves are parallel, there is a significant gap between the two leaves, and that's called the swage of the hinge. The BB1277 specifically has a 5/16 gap, and that can be reviewed at the link below this video to the document called template. That's very important to know so that you can confirm that there will be sufficient room between the leaves for the leaves to slide in, incorporating the thickness of the aluminum on both the door and the frame, and then allowing an adequate gap. Then, assuming you're replacing an existing hinge, you'll have holes drilled and probably countersunk in the aluminum, and then if you take note, these leaves are actually tapped for the 1224 screws, the flat undercut screws that are here. If you try to take a notice at the underside of the flat head, a typical flathead screw will come down like this, and then the body. Well, an undercut is like this, then the body, so that you can get a flush screw condition on a thinner wall thickness of whatever you're attaching it through. And that's what a slip-in hinge is used for. You can do these hinges in one leaf tapped as well, which would give you a different swag on the hinge leaf, assuming that you're going to have one leaf mortised and then the other leaf slip in, and that I've seen as well. Not real common, but common enough to sell them and to know what they are and how they're used. Now, the BB1277 refers to the fact that this is a stainless steel hinge. It's made of steel, and that it is standard weight, meaning that the leaf thickness is 134 thousandths, and that both leaves are tapped. Okay. Variations. The BB1278 is when one leaf is tapped. If one leaf is tapped, and we are asking for the handing of the door when you order it, technically you can take that hinge and turn it over, would be the answer. So it would actually get you out of, well, actually, we need to know the hand in most instances, maybe not when you have both leaves tapped, but because the swag is going to change on the hinge leaves. Okay, that will make the unit handed in the sense that the condition on one leaf for the swag and the condition on the other leaf in a one leaf tapped swag hinge, BB1278, will cause it to be handed. Moving forward, you can do the 1277 and the 1278 as plain bearing by just dropping the BB. This is a 5-knuckle hinge, and on a 5-knuckle standard thickness leaf, you'll have 2 bearing packets. If you drop the BB, you would have just a plain bearing hinge. Never would you want a plain bearing hinge when you have the option of ball bearing. While it may not be evident day one, it certainly will years down the road that a ball bearing hinge is significantly longer lasting. You can also do these in a brass base material, which would be a 1577 or a 1578. So if you change the 12 to a 15, you'll get the same hinge in a brass base material. Then, of course, all of the architectural finishes that you can do to them. Again, slip-in hinges are used on aluminum doors with aluminum frames. They are applied by inserting the hinge leaves through the slot in the door and frame. These hinge feature a non-rising pin with a button tip. Non-rising means that the hinge itself, because the inside of the pin is knurled and it's tapped down, it's not really going to move on you. It's possible that it will over time, but it's non-rising and is intended not to. You can also order these as a non-removable pin where there will be a set screw drilled and tapped into the barrel, and then in the pin itself there's a groove cut so that when you tighten that set screw, it will seat into the groove in the pin, preventing the pin from being drawn out. And if you have an out-swinging door and this barrel is exposed, you're going to certainly want the NRP version, and you can select that at the time of order. Certainly regarding the ball bearings, if you have a door closer, you will absolutely want the ball bearing version of it. Available in a 4.5 by 4.5, and that's what this hinge is. So that's going to tell you that the hinge is 4.5 tall and 4.5 wide. Now, you can also get 4.5 by 4, very common. So you'll definitely want to check the width of the hinge, especially if you're replacing only one. 4.5 by 4 wide is important. The height is the first dimension. Really, I suppose doesn't matter when it's 4.5 by 4.5, but it would be crucial to know that it was 4.5 height if you were talking about a rectangular hinge like a 4.5 by 4. The 4 is the width when the hinge is laid open in front of you. Okay. Now the hinge is available in all of the common finishes, painted finishes. This is the LS, which is called Lumachine, which is like a sprayed aluminum type color. Very common and would certainly complement an aluminum storefront. You could take that a step further and go with a satin chrome, naturally on steel, plated steel, if you wanted to, but this would very much complement your aluminum storefront because, frankly, it almost looks like a clear anodized finish. We spoke earlier about the fact that you can order it as our non-removable as well, non-removable pin. There are details below this video giving all of the other tips, the bullet points of the hinge. The only one that I've not really covered is the fact that this is a button tip. It looks like the button of a coat. I suppose you could order decorative tips if you wanted to. That would be probably the first time ever because of the application. Aluminum doors and frames. There is a link below this video as well to the handing chart. We're asking you for the handing of the opening, and then again that link to the template so that you can view all of the important dimensional properties of the hinge. And I would very much recommend that you do that because it will allow you to eliminate the guesswork. Are the screw holes located in the proper distance? That's crucial to know. Also in that template is a reference to an AB7012. That would be I believe a 3-knuckle hinge. Let's take a look. So an AB7012, that's going to be a 3-knuckle hinge. You can do that, and you can also do it as an AB8012, which would be the same hinge. So the AB7012 is a 3-knuckle in a steel base. AB8012 is a 3-knuckle in a brass base material. Okay. The template gives all of the other important dimensional properties that you can review. And again, that 5/16 is the crucial dimension that's there. Okay. I'm going to put the tape measure on this and see how accurate that is. I'm going to say it's close. I'm not going to say it's 5/16. Leaving those leaves parallel. The actual hinge that I have is, quite frankly, it's closer to 3/16. So we will address that with Hager, but keep in mind that the 5/16 is the dimension of the swag, and we're going to assume that there's a small variation on this hinge for some unforeseen reason. do like to check the dimensions of everything during the video creation process, because it allows us to eliminate anomalies like this, and permanently archives the fact that this hinge is closer to 3/16. Okay. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Hager products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, along with a link to the full product catalog. If you have any questions on the Hager BB1277 full mortise, both leaves tapped, slip-in style hinge, or any other Hager product, please feel free to reach out to us.